stage, where we're going to hear from climate champions and cutting-edge thinkers, innovators, and the stage is going to be theirs in a moment.
Gotcha. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Smiely Khurana. I am so thrilled to be here on behalf of Story Money Impact. So I'm here to introduce you to the transformative work of Story Money Impact. And here on behalf of Sue Bealey, who couldn't make it, our executive director. We're a non-traditional film distribution organization that uses documentaries to create meaningful and measurable change. So I want to start off by, because I know we're like halfway into our day, let's get everyone standing and let's play a little game, a little activity. Okay, now that we got our legs stretching, is everyone up? I can barely see from here with the lights, but so I'm going to ask a few questions. So the first one is, if you have never watched a documentary, sit down. Cool, okay. If you have never been impacted by a documentary, sit down. So if you watched one, but you just never felt an impact. Okay, interesting. You have never taken some kind of action after watching a documentary, sit down. Incredible. Okay, so you can look around the room and see that we all share that in common, the power of documentary. So let's, everyone can sit down now. Thank you for participating. I thought somebody would have sat down, so that's really good to see that that's something that's bringing all of us together in this room. So at Story Money Impact, we believe in the power of storytelling through film. Documentaries in particular have a unique ability to generate empathy, influence hearts and minds, and catalyze real-world actions. They're not just tools for entertainment, they can foster community empowerment, influence policies, and bring together diverse stakeholders who might not otherwise collaborate. Films are an incredibly cost-effective way for organizations to reach new audiences, raise awareness, and bring significant media attention to critical causes. Beyond screenings, they also serve as launching pads for creating supplementary content like clips and short films that support broader advocacy efforts. Okay. So we're proud to have worked with 29 impactful documentaries, 12 of which are climate related. Next slide. Over the past 3 years, SMI has organized 1,223 screenings, engaging in an audience of nearly 18,000 people. These aren't just numbers. These represent real communities taking real actions. Next. Our partnerships are diverse, spanning across over 100 nonprofits, 19 government agencies, 47 universities, and many more organizations, all coming together to support change through storytelling. Next, please. And what makes our approach unique is our emphasis on accessibility and support. We provide flexible screening windows so organizations can pick the best time for their community. We offer event organizing resources and discussion guides, empowering communities to take the reins in shaping these conversations. For schools, we even provide lesson plans, and for groups with limited resources, we offer virtual panel options, allowing them to participate in meaningful dialogue. Our goal is to make sure that everyone has the tools they need to engage their community around climate and other critical issues. Take our Earth Day initiative as an example. In 2022 alone, we worked with Jennifer Abbott to screen The Magnitude of All Things. And we reached, next slide, I think, yeah. We reached over 4,000 people through screenings. And as you can see, 59% of the attendees expressed an increased willingness to address their climate grief. Importantly, many committed further engagement with environmental organizations like the Climate Reality Project and programs like the Good Grief Network's 10-step plan. Next. In 2023, we hosted 249 screenings of Before They Fall, with over 7,000 people engaged and participating. Next. This year, we were so proud to share that we had screenings of the Clavona Keepers in every single province of Canada. You can go next. This year's Earth Day initiative was sponsored by ReelGreen, and with their support, we were able to reach over 6,000 people across 260 screenings. And as you can see, the impact here on the screen of our engaged community. Another exciting highlight of Story Money Impact is its extensive reach across Canada, particularly in non-major cities. Over 4,600 audience members attended screenings in non-major cities compared to just 1,500 in major cities. This shows our ability to move beyond traditional urban distribution and engage rural audiences as well. These screenings have connected diverse groups, faith-based, academic, and more, and our consistent engagement with recurring audiences show the trust and strong relationships we've built, contributing to attitude and behavior shifts on key issues like climate change. As we look ahead to the future, we want to invite you to join us in amplifying this impact. You can sponsor Earth Day 2025 program, host your own screenings, or support our work through a donation. By partnering with Story Money Impact, you're helping to foster empathy, drive behavior change, and create a sustainable future for all of us. Together, we can use the power of storytelling to care for our planet. And please don't hesitate to reach out for more information about our initiatives and how to get involved, either through me or our Executive Director, Sue Bealey, and our website. And thank you so much for having me here.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Barnes. I'm the lead of the ReelGreen initiative at the Provincial Film Commission at Creative BC. It's an honor to stand in front of all of you today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us on the unceded traditional territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Stolo First Nations. It's my pleasure to stand in front of you and also on the shoulders of all the work that Julie Bernard, that Marnie G., that Smiely and Zena Harris have all done to elevate ReelGreen. It's my privilege to be in front of you today, representing what the new transition of ReelGreen will be. Historically, the program has focused on three broad objectives, which were to transform the industry, to achieve zero greenhouse gas emissions, and to institute circular economy principles. We do that through a number of different touch points, through committees, engagement, education, training, obviously, and providing a resource for people on production to reduce barriers to implementing sustainability in their jobs and roles. This is a bit of an overview of what's happened to date, and we want to continue doing that in the future. I don't want to take up too much of anyone's time because what we want to focus on in reinvigorating this initiative is to educate, engage, and act. So we're governed by an advisory committee, and the survey that we've put forward to them is very clear that ReelGreen needs tangible actions with multiple objectives that we can see and track over time. So moving forward, we want to invigorate the website to become a useful tool for folks to be on the ground, standing in the rain from a locations point of view, looking at how they can find the tie-ins and where they're filming, and focusing on real tangible tools that producers, production managers, everyone down to generator operators can figure out ways that they can enhance their sustainability footprint. This QR code takes us to the website. I don't want to dig into anyone else's time. I think they have more interesting things to say than I do, but please, I'm always available. The code will take you to their website, and you can find my contact information there. Thank you so much.
Well, good. Hi, everyone. For those who don't know, at Valid, we manufacture power equipment for the film industry with a focus on offering more sustainable options. At last year's Idea Boost, we talked about the importance of using the right tier and the right size of your power equipment. And then we talked a little bit about hybrids. This year, we're going to go into how our hybrid system works to give you idea boosts on incorporating them into your power production planning. A hybrid really just utilizes multiple sources of power for a single output. Sometimes those sources are coupled together, and sometimes they just use the charging charge bypass option. The valid power system hybrid combo is an intelligent system that allows you to optimize fuel efficiency for all your load scenarios. Comprised of the VPS Studio generator and battery pack, they can be mounted together on the custom combo trailer, or you can place the units separately, whichever is more convenient for your production. The way that we get them to work together is with a 2-pin auto start cable, which communicates the on-off switch on the battery to the start-stop switch on the battery to the on-off input on the generator. With this, the battery is able to tell the generator when to start up or turn off based on a threshold set. You can see here on the left-hand image, the unit is in charge bypass. So you have 42 kilowatts coming in, 22 of which is going to your battery, and your load is pulling about 19. On the right-hand side is when they're coupled together. So you have your 100 kilowatts coming from your generator, 30 kilowatts coming from your battery's inverter to provide you with a full 130 kilowatt output. It's a lot of power. Because the reality of using batteries on your productions is that you will need to address charging them. The City of Vancouver has taken impressive action in providing clean energy options, and they're also incentivizing productions to use them with permit fees, permit reductions. So when you're in the downtown core, you can take the battery to one of the new film power kiosks, which Valid manufactured for the City of Vancouver to meet the needs of the film industry. But what about when you're not downtown? What about when you need to have one of those tentpole productions where there's no shore power available? For that, a hybrid is a reliable, more sustainable, and better fuel efficiency option for powering those productions where there's little or no infrastructure. As you all know, a production is a lot of moving parts. Power management requires coordination between lighting techs, teamsters, and generator operators. And an important thing to know to get batteries incorporated on your sets is to understand your power requirements and what equipment you have available to use there. Like I said, a lot of moving parts. For areas like circus, catering, work trucks, or construction, you can use the battery in conjunction with a low emissions generator. Doing this is going to reduce running that generator on the low loads, which in turn reduces your wet stacking and excessive emissions output. When shooting closer to set, sound sensitive, you can utilize 2 batteries and swap them out on an already running circus generator to increase its fuel efficiency. I've got a few real-life applications here to show you how our hybrid has been used on sets to give you ideas of incorporating them into your productions. The first case study was when the hybrid was used to power work trucks for a runner show. The battery was able to hold the load for 70% of the time. I kind of want to pause there for a second because without that hybrid system, a generator would have been running the entire time, and the producer reduced that by 70%. Insane. I mean, I get excited about it. The other thing to note here is that the hybrid gave comfort to the generator operator. We're very aware right now that operators have a little bit of a range anxiety adopting this new technology, and they need a backup solution available in case the lights go out. The next case study is even more impressive, by like this much, but still more impressive. So the battery was used to power charging station, craft services, Britco trailers, all 7 kilometers out in the woods. So clearly no option for shore power. The hybrid was able to hold a load for 71% of the time. Originally, they thought that they were only going to charge their battery up every 2 days, but as their production grew, they needed more power available. And with that, the hybrid became, a very good piece of equipment to have on hand because they ended up charging the battery every 2 times a day, which is still only 7 hours a day of runtime as opposed to 24. Still doing it good. Utilizing hybrids is going to save on your bottom line as well as help the planet. As you just saw from the 2 case studies, if applied properly, you can reduce your runtime up to 71%. And that's going to directly relate to your emissions outputs and your fuel costs. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to seeing more hybrids on your productions.
Hello, good afternoon. Glad to be here. My name is Christophe Delavoye. I am part of the sustainability and innovations team for Sunbelt. Based in California for me, I reside, and glad to be here. This is a beautiful, beautiful town of Vancouver here. On the Sunbelt side, you might have heard, you see us on the green equipment, you think Sunbelt, General Tool, big, heavy equipment, but about 3 years ago, we got into the film and TV industry and the special events, and be able to collaborate. It's been really refreshing to see the immense collaboration that would take in place, not only here in Vancouver, LA, and different European cities out there too. So super excited to be here to be able to see the progress. I'm going to cover what we have currently on the Sunbelt offering on the power generation, and then what's coming up on the roadmap. We're all on the net zero journey, and I think we're able to align nicely with not only on the film and TV, but also on the different market segments that we interact with there. So what we have currently, we have the Tier 4 final generators. We have one of the largest fleet that we transitioned over to burn cleaner, but also to make it more efficient on the power distribution there. So I know here in Canada, we have the Tier 2, Tier 3 still in the play, but the Tier 4, yeah, as far as that, to be optimized, we have a great result on that to be able to offer that. So not only quieter, but also burn cleaner. We refer to the wet stacking as far as that. So how do we manage the power generation? And this is what we have on the different sizes, going from 56 all the way up to 2 meg generators there. So a lot of power that we could do that. Next slide, please. On that side, then we transitioned over to paralleling the generators. Not only you have a big size generator, not being optimized to be able to on a daily basis on that. So now we're able to parallel the generators, chop the power distribution, optimize each single one, and be able to still output what is needed for the peak and the high and the lows of the power generation there. It's extremely efficient. Now we're going from the 500 kW generators to 203 125s, and not only reducing the fuel, but also allowing the generators to burn cleaner as far as that. So if we still need for the diesel to be consumed, they'll be able to have a cleaner burning scenario from there. Now we introduced on the battery energy storage system. This is the exciting part here. About 3 years ago, we got super involved with the battery space. Not only to address the paralleling options, but also to be able to, at that point, distribute what is needed. We had some great talks about batteries today to be able to pull what is needed, and that also to be able to have the capacity to do that. It's quiet, it's clean, no fumes, less cable runs, a lot of great feedbacks on the batteries to be able to do that. Here in Canada, we have two battery models that we have, and actually more than that, but we have the 3 or 4 that you'll see there with the display. We had a great hybrid scenario there, explanation on that. And this is really the direction it's going on the fuel savings, but also optimizing the power generation. So now you don't have a generator running 24/7, burning fuel, and be able to, at that point, utilizing that power management. Now, there's 2 applications with batteries on the hybrid that we just touched upon, also on that great system, and also on the standalone. Now you're able to actually remove the fuel entirely and have the battery power your application on that. Great scenario. You don't have any fuel drops. So if you don't have an EV truck come out to do a fuel drop, you're able to have that on the standalone units on that. So amazing side to be able to have just on that to start thinking, hey, we could do it on the battery alone at that point there. So thank you. Next slide. So we're moving forward. We have also the EV charging application on that. This is huge as you're electrifying your fleet on the transport or anything that we have. How do you charge it? We refer to at the range anxiety. I'm driving an EV, and I've gone through, it took me about 2 months to acclimate to, hey, am I going to run out of juice in the middle of nowhere, right? So we're able to alleviate that, bring a large fleet of EV charging. So when you do to your site or you go to a base camp, you can plug in. You don't even have to think about, am I going to make it home, right? So a great fleet operation on this. This is also a service that we have. We have one of those out there that will plug in. Fast chargers available. Again, depending on what your charging cycle is, we can monitor, but also we can customize what is needed for your fleet there. Again, just to remove that anxiety of, am I going to be okay with that technology? So next slide, please. Now we're going to go into what's coming up. All right, what would you starting to use? We touched upon today the R99, the renewable diesel. We're in LA right now. That's all we're using is renewable diesel on all our generators. Great. It's a drop-in fuel. We have easy access, which makes it very, very nice, but also reduces even the emissions even more. So when you do have a need for cleaner fuel, then the renewable diesel has been a great, great option. It's going that direction for that too, and great, great feedback. And we're almost breaking even as far as or directly on what the diesel cost is about that there. So it's R100 here in Canada, from what I understand from there. So next slide, please. Exciting part on the solar panels that we discussed about. Great options that is coming up. We have the footprint, but also the technology is going that direction where now we're going to be able to produce 30 kW, where we could actually start recharging the batteries and be able to actually have the 24/7, not 24/7, but capture that solar arrays directly from that and capturing that, which is wonderful on this. And it will be able to tie up into the batteries, but also have different options directly to have the power management from there. So next slide, please. Hydrogen, we discussed that. It was brought up today. This is definitely something coming this way. We have a couple of units we're testing in the UKs right now on hydrogen. Great feedback. I think that's going to be also a technology that's going to be well received and be able to test on that. So we're testing this here. I think we have a couple of markets in Canada that we're going to be testing those very shortly. But this is not just in the film and TV. We're seeing that on the distribution. The oil and gas world is also looking at some of the options there that we're able to do that on the general construction side of that. So hydrogen definitely coming up. A lot of great minds, a lot of great ideas coming up from that. Next slide, please. Flywheels is another technology we're looking into. Also a couple of units in Europe that we're testing right now to be able to see the feedback, the performance, and also what kind of production we're getting out of this. I think that's something that the position that Sunbelt has is we're able to test those in the field before we actually deploy them on a big scale. So we do have a vetting process, and we love to hear the feedback. So if there's some testing grounds that we want to do here, please reach out to us. We'd love to partner up. Let's do a trial. Let's do a pilot to be able to see what's available on that and continue that collaboration there. So flywheel, something really to look into there. And for the last thing, next slide there, please. Perfect. Battery chemistry we touched upon. It's going to get better. It's going to get more efficient. The capacity is going to get better. We're going to be able to charge them a lot quicker. So again, that technology is going to grow extremely well. And as far as the different chemistry that is taking place. So we're in the forefront, definitely with some of the manufacturers, getting some ideas, testing it on the construction sites, and different segments also that we can bring into that. So I am extremely excited about this. The innovation world, this is not only great for the planet, but it's great for the industry to be able to do that. We have great presence here with the group of the Sunbelt here. So if you don't know them, go see them there. We're here to support, we're here to help, and looking forward to partner and pilot and go net zero. So thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. All right. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about systems thinking. And I think that this is going to be maybe less of an idea boost and more of an idea seed. You know, something I'd like to seed in our collective and individual brains today. We've often thought about or talked about systems thinking. It's even been brought up today in terms of like the production being, you know, a broader system. And systems are made up about all these things, right? It's patterns, interrelated relationships, and it's full of dynamics in terms of like all the collective of its parts. And I wanted to talk about systems thinking, but I wanted to bring in, you know, many moons ago, I worked at CBC and at CPAC Public Affairs Channel, and I migrated into environmental management for quite a number of years. And I think there's a lot of really good parallels, lessons that we can draw from environmental management into and the systems that we find in our natural systems and how that kind of applies to the work that we do. So what I wanted to do in terms of an example, if you next slide, I wanted to kind of bring in an example that some of you in the audience may be familiar with of Yellowstone National Park. You may recall that basically, a national park is a complex ecosystem, right? Lots of beasts and animals and plants and fauna and so on. And in 1926, they had the idea, well, let's remove like the top of the food chain. Let's remove the wolves that are disruptive and that are eating all of the elk and so on. So they were essentially removed from Yellowstone National Park in 1926. And for most of us, for the many, many decades that followed, we'd maybe go to Yellowstone, and it would still look like a wilderness area, and it would still look to the layman as potentially a healthy ecosystem. But that wasn't actually the case. Next slide. There were actually some cascading effects. If you think about the various the food web, right? There's other species in there. So what is influence, what species is influencing which one? How are they connected? Does anyone have any ideas? If you think about just a few of the ones that I put up there, like how would the absence of the wolf kind of have an impact on any of those that I've listed up there? Does anyone have an idea? Is anyone familiar with the elk would overpopulate, and then there's consequences to that, right? So if the elk overpopulate, then what happens? They eat all the grass. They eat all the grass, but they don't eat just the grass. They also eat the pioneering tree species. So the tree cover started to diminish over time. The grasslands started to be eroded. So the riparian areas were negatively affected. So that affected beavers as well. There was an abundance of them. So they were actually trampling quite a bit on the throughout the park, and that was affecting the kind of shrubs and things that were growing. So to you and me, it might have looked like it was actually a healthy ecosystem, but there was actually removing one species had a huge cascading effect. So they decided, rather controversially, a few decades ago, to, maybe we need to reintroduce the wolves. So in 1995, they reintroduced the wolves, and apologies for the quality of some of these photos there, and you can scan that if you want to have. I'm just going to go high level on this. If you want to see more the details of the story, you can scan that. So they introduced just a handful of wolves in 1995, and by 2012, there were 98 wolves. In 2024, this year, there's 124 wolves in 10 packs. What do you think happened as a result of the reintroduction of the wolves? Anyone have? There's more balance. So essentially, the unhealthy elk were starting to be preyed upon, but then they started to have a regular predator-prey relationship where they would spread out in the park. The population declined to more normal rates. The riparian areas started to grow better, and so you had willows and other species of trees that were kind of coming back up. Because they weren't congregating constantly in the same areas and there wasn't a huge amount of elk, it actually allowed for grasslands to go in. So the flow of the rivers through Yellowstone National Park actually changed. So you actually had now better flow, temperature changes in the water, fish species were coming back. So because of this reintroduction, you have like a much healthier ecosystem and species that are now thriving. You have shrubs that were reappearing, and so small mammals like the marmots and so on had places to hide from the prey birds and so on. So you had a better diversity of species. So we tend to think about ecosystems maybe in this kind of pyramidal or food web kind of way. Well, what's actually kind of interesting is that we actually remove the human element from this, right? And what about the park rangers that had the idea to do this? They're not included in here, and yet they have a huge influence on the ecosystem. So we tend to look at systems and divorce ourselves from them, and yet we make decisions that are really, really significant and have a cascading, ripple, long-standing, long-term effects. So we tend to think that the wolves are bad for the elk, but the wolves obviously prey upon the elk. They need the elk in order to thrive, but the elk also need they basically need each other, right? There's an interdependency there. The wolves need the elk to thrive, and the elk need the wolf in order to adopt the kind of behavior that allows for an ecosystem to change and to have the kind of complexity that we're used to seeing in order for even rivers to actually change their flow. So this idea of interdependency across relationships, rather than just a pyramidal kind of like one is the boss, and like we think about our systems in the production world, we're very, very hierarchical. But there's actually an interdependency that I'd really like for us to think about and embrace when we think about systems change. Next slide. I put this because, I talked about the willows. The willows grew back, and they allowed because they grew near the river side, they allowed for the beavers to actually be able to come and chop them down and create dams which contributed to the river flows. So the beavers, there was one beaver back in 1995 in Yellowstone Park, and now I can't remember the number. You have to scan that to find out. There's many. They're thriving. There was no plan to save the beaver when they reintroduced the wolves. That was an unintended beneficial consequence. So there's a lot of things that can happen through systems change that we can't yet see. And I'd really like for us to think about that when we adopt a sustainability lens. So when we think about that interdependency of species, I want to think about our production. Like, what happens when we apply that interdependent role to our whole production? How are we dependent upon one another? What would happen if we were to remove one role from our whole production team? Like, how would that have a cascading effect? How much would our productions be impacted? Next. And so think about when we start to add a sustainability role to our productions, what does that change? What is the ripple effect? What is the long-standing unintended consequence, beneficial consequence that we have yet to see that may happen? How are our interdependencies going to evolve and change? And productions are a complex systems, but it's also a system within many systems, systems of vendors, as we've talked about here, systems of governance and film commissions and of different governments. So there's a lot of different ways in which we can think about interdependencies and how a role in sustainability within our industry has that kind of cascading effect. Next. So fundamentally, I'm going to want to leave this with this, is that we are all really wanting to work to shift the system. And we should really be asking ourselves every time we bring something in, or we're questioning something, are we actually solving major problems, or are we creating more? So we really need to embrace radical change. We've, digital cameras, it was a radical change. But so is deep sea mining, right? Do we want to go towards deep sea mining, or do we actually want to think about how we can radically change the way that we are collaborating on our productions through our systems in order to find a more future fit, transformative, and beneficial industry? Thank you.